So today we are in Psalm 100. It's a short psalm of praise to God, a psalm that reveals not only something of how we worship, but more importantly, why we worship. The psalm starts with a simple instruction to shout. The literal Hebrew for that word is to split the ears. So we make some noise, to raise your voice. Now, I don't know how often you shout or who you shout at. For me, the majority of my shouting is directed at my dog in the park or at my kids. But here we are directed to shout to the Lord, and to shout to the Lord with joy. Now, when I shout at my kids or my dog, it's usually frustration, maybe anger. But this holy shout is a different kind of shout. It is a joyous noise. Later in verse 2, we will be called to worship and to approach God. And again, we do so with gladness and joyful songs. Our God is the most joyful, happy being in the universe. And so when we, his people, approach him, we do so with joy and gladness, for that is in keeping with his nature. So shout for joy. But we might legitimately ask, why? Why should I shout? Well, the psalmist addresses this question for us. Shouting for joy to God, worshipping him with gladness is appropriate. Why? Because he is God. Know that he is God. He made us. We belong to him. He is our good shepherd and we are the sheep of his pasture. Verse 5, we shout because he is good. That's a sort of yippee type of shout, isn't it? We shout because he loves us with all of his love all of the time. We shout because he is faithful to us. In other words, his goodness and his love towards us is unchanging. It never diminishes. It never changes based on our behavior. And so we shout to the Lord for joy. One of the lovely things about producing these little videos each day is that I hear from time to time of younger or newer Christians that are accessing them. So let me point out a simple principle from this psalm that is a principle I learned as a new Christian. And it's this, verse 4, it holds a simple and powerful key to experiencing the presence of God in our lives. And it says, enter his gates with thanksgiving, enter his courts with praise. Now, the imagery here is of the temple or the tabernacle tent, and it's of a worshipper journeying through the temple from the outside edges right through to the inner place, the holy place, the place where God's presence dwells, where we find the encounter of his presence. How do we enter into that holy place? Well, we start by going through the gates of thanksgiving. So whenever you start a worship time, whether that's in your home or if we're gathering together, start by thanking God for all the good things that he's done in your life. And then we go a little further, a little deeper into the temple through the courts. And the psalmist says that the key to this part of the journey is praise. In other words, start to praise God for who he is, declare his nature, start to pray out, God, you are so good, so faithful, so kind, so generous. And as we do so, we find ourselves in that secret place of his presence. Finally, back to verse 1, shout to the Lord, all the earth. There's something prophetic in this psalm. Yes, Right now, all of creation declares the praises of God. But the psalm points forward to a day of great joy, a day when Jesus returns, when all of creation is renewed, a day when every knee will bow and every tongue will confess, will shout aloud that Jesus is Lord. And all of the earth will be filled with shouts of joyful praise. So why wait for that day? Why not start right now and raise your voice, bring heaven to earth, and shout for joy to the Lord with all the earth?